Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for a link to my Amazon store where I've compiled some of the very best items available, including some of my own personal recommendations. Thanks! What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. I don't know why I stumbled over my intro there. This is the Off Grid Knives Badger EDC, a very, very interesting, very compelling budget option from Off Grid Knives. This was another model that was sent to me by Off Grid Knives, so thank you very much. They've got a whole bunch of different interesting folding knives and fixed blades that are generally between, what I'm seeing is between the $30 mark and about the $100, $110 mark, so very interesting. This knife is, to my knowledge, manufactured by Bestech. I could be wrong. It feels very Bestech-y. Anybody who's handled a bunch of Bestechs, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Kind of in league with the, you know, it's a really high quality Chinese manufacturer that is kind of in line with like Civivi. In my opinion, up from you know, Gonzo and even CJRB. I love CJRB, but this is a little bit up from there. But yeah, very high quality considering the price. There will be a link for this guy down in the description so you can check it out. Real quick, thanks so much to all of my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. Really means the world to me. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, there is a link down in the description. Get your hands on some of those stickers and some other exclusive benefits. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get a measurement on this little guy. Overall length coming in at, is it right at 7 inches? Yeah, 7 inches. Blade length coming in at 3 inches overall, and cutting edge coming in at about 2.8. I kind of would have liked, you know, this is one of those things where I agree with Nick Shabazz. It's like, if it's going to be right on the line, make it 2.9 so that it can be legal, you know, because even if it is right on the line, you know, in some places they might let you skirt by. In other places, it's definitely not. I mean, it's definitely going to be a problem. So it's not that big of a deal, but it just, for people who live in those areas, they're like, do I want to risk carrying it, you know? So, okay, you know, it's fine. It's not a deal breaker. It's just, it's one of those things you got to think about. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, Rat 1, coming in at 8.6 inches overall. Scoot this guy back. This is a kind of a chunky, small knife. It's not an overly cumbersome or, you know, thick or heavy knife. We'll talk about that. But it does have kind of a chunky appearance despite being short. 8.6 inches overall on the Rat. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, we have the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Get them butt to butt there, so just a 1/4 inch longer. However, cutting edge, comparatively, we have a lot more cutting edge on the Badger EDC here. How's the action on this guy? It's Bestech, so yeah, it flips great considering it's a budget knife. It just takes a little, actually showed it a little too much there. It really doesn't take much to get it to drop shut. The detent is tuned very nicely. Very nice, clicky, ready? Nice, clicky detent. We've got a flipper tab that's not huge, it's not super small, but plenty of room for leverage. So if you want to do the light switch or you want to do more of a push button, right, either way it's going to go. So that's fine. No complaints there whatsoever. Let's talk about carry profile here real quick. I'll give you a measurement on the blade thickness before we weigh it and talk about carry profile. 142 thousandths by mine's, we'll call it probably 140 is probably, his machines are probably accurate and my device is a little bit off. We are looking at FRN scales backed up with a full steel liner. Let's look on the inside here real quick. You can see that these are solid. There is no milling on the inside there. So this is a solid feeling knife, and it does, so I don't like FRN because they generally feel cheap and hollow. But like the Rat, they are backed up by a solid liner, so it has that solidity that I, you know, look for. However, it makes the knife come in at a, you know, it's heavy for the size of knife that it is, 4.87 ounces. However, 4.87 ounces is 4.87 ounces, right? It has a lot more to do with how the knife carries. I regularly carry knives between 4 and 6.5 ounces, so this fits right in there. I don't really care, you know, if it's heavy for the amount of cutting edge that I'm getting. It's not ratios that mean a whole lot to me. And in terms of carry profile, let's talk about that. It's kind of shaped like a little grenade, but it's really not all that thick. I mean, we're looking at pretty much, it's just a little bit thicker than the PM2 in terms of height. I would say the PM2 at its tallest, yeah, the Para 3 at its tallest point is still taller than the tallest point on the Badger. Same with the PM2. It's a little thicker, but it's definitely shorter than both the Para 3 and PM2, and, you know, move some lumps and things around, and you're essentially talking about the same mass in your pocket. The only difference is that this is a little heavier. So if you're wearing, you know, like athletic shorts, or you're wearing skinny jeans, or you're, you know, wearing a Speedo because you're about to swim, right? You're about to swim laps. Yeah, probably not going to work out for you. But, you know, I mean, all jokes aside, though, if you're wearing regular pants, it's not going to bother you. Not going to bother you at all. And if you're not carrying anything else in your pocket, the flipper tab's not going to carry it all. If you carry a bunch of other stuff in your pocket, that's just going to be the case. Let's go ahead and do the hardware check on this guy. Get out my handy-dandy WIA magnetic driver and WIA bit selector, two items that are extremely inexpensive and extremely recommendable. You can find them both down in the Amazon store that I reference at the beginning of every video. Just pull it open and look for knife maintenance. Should be easy to find. Very, very, very recommendable. I'm going to guess, like most Bestecs, the pivot is T8, which is the case. And we've got another head on this side. And then also, unfortunately, like most Bestecs, I think the body screws are T6. And that's not just to say that that's Bestec. That's like every knife, or like 50% of knives out there are T8 pivot, T6 body screws, and that's the case. I've spoken with Kerry about this, yeah, he's on board with the idea of changing a lot of the body screws I think it was actually the Scorpion to T8. You know, yeah, Kerry, if you're watching, I think that it might be a good idea to bump to T8 on all of these. I mean, it's like I always say, T6 is not that big of a deal. It's just frustrating because they strip out a little bit easier. If you're careful and you've got high quality tools, like the ones that I always plug in my reviews, then yeah, you're going to be just fine. But you do have to be careful. I have definitely stripped. People are like, well, if you got the right tools, you won't strip all the... Yeah, you will. You can still mess up a WIA driver, and you can still mess up a T6 head, right? I mean, you can mess up a T8 head, it just doesn't happen as often. So on a knife like this that has more of a robust look, I think T8 hardware would be a little bit more at home, and you wouldn't have to switch out the bit between the pivot and the body screws. So not that big of a deal. I kind of dwelled on that for a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. All right, did we get all that stuff? Let's move on to anatomy and the main review of the knife. So what we're looking at here again is FRN, textured FRN. It's kind of a golf ball texturing, really, really pleasant. And then we've got the steel liners, and we have a D2 blade. It's you know, fairly typical materials in this price range. You guys know my thoughts on FRN. It's like I mentioned, I don't like FRN because to me it's plastic and it feels cheap. It does feel a little bit cheap to the touch, but most of the cheapness feeling comes from the hollowness, and a lot of times that it's really emphasized in knives that do not have a liner at all, or are just sporting a cartridge liner. The Benchmade Bug Out, the Benchmade Griptilian, blah, 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 blah. You guys have heard me say it a million times. This knife, like I said, like the Rat, is backed up by a full steel liner. So a lot of that feeling goes away. Here's the thing. If FRN doesn't bother you, then yeah, just ignore this part, because truthfully, FRN is super durable, and like G10, it's basically weatherproof, expansion and contraction proof. It is heat resistant. I mean, you can set it on fire and melt it, but it's going to take a little bit, right? It's super durable. I just don't like that it feels, you know, cheap. But because it's backed up by the liner, it still sounds solid. And you know, this is a solid feeling knife because of the liners and the fact that they're unmilled. So that kind of balances out a little bit. I still would prefer that it was in G10. If it was in G10 and had that texture on it, I would have been real happy with that. I love golf ball texturing, right? 0561, ZT0561 texturing, or texturing that's similar to a Hinder XM18. Big fan of that. In any case, though, in terms of, you know, utilitarian benefit, yeah, it does provide traction. Your hands can dig into it a little bit without it being something that's going to sort of snare up on your pants pocket. So I don't have a problem with that. Let's move on to the blade, because this is the best part of the knife. This is a robust sort of tank-like blade that is high enough to, you know, where the flat is located and how much flat there is. The flat runs out about 75% of the length of the blade, right, by the way. And then you have a lot of room to drop down towards the cutting edge and so much belly. This thing is a cutter. You know, it's a tool, but it will slice. It'll slice efficiently. There's nothing in the cutting path. And you've got all that excess strength, all that excess thickness coming out to a pretty robust tip there. It's still plenty capable of doing some cutting tasks. Yeah, you know, for a small knife, I mean, it is kind of a little tank, and I like that. I think that's the feature that I like the most about this. The black wash looks nice. There is just a tumbled variant of this. I think the tumbling looks great too. Pretty subdued, pretty even. It's definitely going to hide wear over time. The edge is fantastic. Typical Bestech, if that is the case there. No nicks or rolls. It's all even all the way down. These little marks up here are gross fingerprints from whatever, my hands, the oils on my hands or whatever. But yeah, the blade looks nice. You know, I always opt for a tumbled blade, but I had asked for so many different, you know, the knives that he offered up to send to me, he was like, do you want it in black or do you want it in the tumbled? And I'd asked for so many different tumbled ones. I was like, well, we better mix it up, right? This is going to appeal to different people. But yeah, the blade looks nice. They've got their logo on there, and then the other side it says D2. It's like I've said before, I love it when that's it. It doesn't say China, item number, you know, 4520649667, patent number, blah, 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 www.offgridknives.com. You know, it doesn't say all that. I think it was Benchmade who put a website on the blade one time, and I was like, what are you doing? Don't do that. It's so bad. This looks great. This looks great. It's a very handsome blade. Everything's knocked down on the spine. No issues there whatsoever. Jimping is in the right place, and there's actually a little bit of a rise up here, which is nice. Kind of helps your finger dig into it because the jimping's not super aggressive. Very easy to disengage the liner. Absolutely, there's a nice little cutout there. Not sharp or anything like that. No double clutch. Very, very easy. I mean, for those of you fidgety folks out there are really going to like that if you like to sit around and flip your knives and annoy your significant other. Pivot's fine. Hardware style is fine. We've got a slot cut out so that you can mount the clip on either side. Yeah, there's a chunk cut out of the knife. I don't really care. I'm happy that it's there so that lefties can at least carry it. It is a right-handed liner lock though, so you know, I'm a right-handed person and I can manipulate this knife with my left hand, so I imagine there's lefties out there who can do the same. I'm not necessarily fully ambidextrous, but just from all the fidgeting with knives, right, you can do that. This is a pillar construction knife, open body. Since there are no pockets milled out on the inside, the nice thing is you're not going to have gunk trapped deep down in there. It's really just going to sit on the surface, so really easy to just run a claw through there and clean it out. Pocket clip is wonderful. Oh, it's such a wonderful clip. Nice, short, deep carry clip with recessed screws. Easy to get over the pants pocket no matter what it is that you're wearing, right? Whether it's jeans, sweatpants. I'm in sweatpants right now and it does just fine. There's a little bit of a bill, but the retention's good and it's not sticking up enough that I really feel like it's going to catch on anything, but super low profile clip. I mean, it's kind of like it's like a little variant of the Benchmade bug out clip. But yeah, it's a wonderful clip. I like that they've got the little logo on there, right? It's not really in your face. One of the most interesting things about this knife is the fact that it's got this little lock here. Essentially, you know, the lock doesn't do anything in the closed position, but in the open position, it'll lock the liner lock out, so it won't disengage. Does that need to be there? No, the liner lock locks, like to make sure that the liner doesn't move back over. You know, that's been a thing in many different designs. There's a lot of, you know, like the Gerber, some Gerber knives have it. The CRKT M16 models have it. There's a lot of high-end and low-end, and it's got various locks. I don't think it necessarily needs to be there. If you're about to do something with this knife that will undoubtedly void the warranty, then you're going to be glad that that's there, because it's definitely going to keep that liner lock in place. In any case, the liner lock is super solid, right? There's no hint of anything that might suggest that this lock is going to disengage. The lock locks up at probably about 35–40%. No lock stick whatsoever, and it is completely centered. Very solid. That's what I expect from Bestech. And truthfully, you know, if you're paying more than, you know, 30 bucks for a knife, you're going to get that. So again, I guess it's nice. I mean, like, it is clicky. It'll stay in place. It's possible that while you're using this, your hand could slip off of it and disengage it. Then you could accidentally maneuver around it and disengage the lock bar in exactly the wrong position to have it come down in your hand. But it's unlikely, right? And if you've been using liner locks for your whole life and they haven't disengaged, then you're probably safe anyway. So it doesn't need to be there, but again, I mean, if you're really gonna beat on this thing in a way that where, you know, you look at this knife as a disposable object and you're like, I just need that lock I just need to make sure that lock's gonna stay in place while I do this insert non-knife task, then okay, you can lock it out. The switch is definitely not in the way. You know, I'm kind of indifferent about it. In some situations, you might find that you're using it and you accidentally engage it and you're like, what the heck? Oh, I got to push it back down, right? It looks like you can tighten it. I imagine that is the case where you can tighten it down and make it to where it doesn't move. I almost feel like you could probably take this apart and just take the thing off. In fact, you probably can just put a tool in there and take it off, you know, maybe from the top. Probably not, though. You probably have to take the whole knife apart, but it looks like it's removable. So if you really hate it, don't fuss about it. Just take it off, right? And then you just got a regular liner lock. So what's the verdict on this guy? Things that I can complain about. It's kind of heavy for the size. That's going to bother some people. It's right at 3 inches. Kind of would have been nice to have it at 2.9, you know, or less. Not that big of a deal. The hardware is T6 on the body screws. Okay, not that big of a deal. This thing is not necessarily a disadvantage. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. I can't really complain about that. I don't think there was really much else that I can complain about. The price comes in at $60, $59.95, something like that, $60. Depends on when you're watching this, right? Make sure that you check, because it depends on where you're buying it. Prices could be different all over the place. But generally speaking, from what I'm seeing, this comes at about $60. Yeah, I think that's a fair price. You see a lot of models, a lot of knives that are made out of similar materials. It's like, you know, fairly common to see knives between the $50 and $70 mark that are here. This one hits smack dab in the middle. It's not an insane deal, but it's also not like, you know, wow, it's massively overpriced. No, I think it's right about on, you know, anywhere between the $50 and $60 mark. I think that would be totally appropriate for this. So yeah, I can absolutely recommend this knife. Just keep in mind, it's heavier than you might expect for a knife of this size, but you're going to like it. Something we didn't talk about. Let me bring this up real quick. Ergonomics. So I actually can get my hand all the way around this. When I looked at it, I thought, the thing I'm not going to like about it is I'm not going to be able to get my hand all the way around it. Actually, I can. You are kind of crammed in here, but yeah, I can get my hand around it, and the edges are knocked down enough, right, that it's really not a bother to hold, you know, in any position. Sorry, I bumped the camera there. But yeah, ergonomics are not like mind-blowing, right? But they are good. You can hold onto the knife and you're going to be able to lock into it. If you are wearing gloves, the excess thickness of the gloves might cause you to kind of feel like you're holding on more like this. But in any case, I like the fact that it's compact and a little shorter. If you've got other things that you carry, you might appreciate that there's just less mass of the object, right? Not necessarily the extra ounce that's in this knife versus other knives of this size. It's probably not going to bother you, but the fact that, you know, it is a smaller object, despite being kind of fat, you might appreciate. But yeah, you can get your hand all the way around it. If you got a 2XL glove size hand, it's going to be a 3-finger position for you. But if you've got XL glove size, large glove size, you know, medium or small glove size, you're going to feel right at home with this thing. But yeah, anyways, this is going to be going on 2 different playlists, most recommended knives, and also cheap knives that I like. So gosh, I wish it was in G10. I just want it. I can't wave off FRN. I can't be like, nope, can't recommend it because it's in FRN, because FRN is, you know, completely justifiable in this price range, but I just don't like it. But in any case, yeah, I can recommend it. So check it out. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do not like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.